Okay, let's unpack this. Imagine a 911 call, you hear a woman scream, and then just silence.
Chilling.
Yeah. That's how this deep dive kicks off. We're on a rural Texas road, September 2016. We've about cops finding a real-life horror movie scene.
It throws you right into the aftermath, doesn't it? Total chaos.
Totally. So our mission today really is to try and make sense of this frantic scene, follow the threads, see where this bewildering story actually goes.
And what jumps out right away is how that initial picture, the woman in distress, it starts to fracture almost immediately.
Fracture how?
Well, you have this incredibly emotional 911 call, someone seemingly desperate. But then you look closer at the details she gives. And her story, it begins to unravel. Pretty quickly, too.
Okay. So, the setup. 2 deputies show up, isolated spot. They find Chacey Pointer, and she's completely hysterical.
Right.
She's saying her husband, Robert, he got shot. He was helping her with her Jeep, which she claims was stuck just down the road. She's begging them, help him, help him.
And one deputy rushes down there.
Exactly. He goes to find Robert.
And that first interaction, Chacey state, the specific thing she says right then, that becomes like a baseline,
Yeah.
Something to compare everything else against as the investigation moves forward.
Absolutely. We got to keep coming back to that initial picture she painted.
Right.
So the deputy finds Robert. He's deceased. Shotgun wound. But here's where it gets weird. Chacey says she only saw a shadow.
A shadow after a shotgun blast.
Right. Just a shadow. She's frantic, described as having blood on her hands. Keeps pleading for help. More people arrive, ambulance, other officers. But Robert's not brought up with them initially.
Which is interesting, isn't it? The focus isn't immediately on the victim for transport. It's on Chacey, the witness. What does that suggest about how they first saw the situation?
Good point. It suggests they're treating her as the primary person needing attention, maybe, or the key witness.
Could be.
Then Officer Meek gets there. He starts questioning Chacey in the back of the ambulance, reads her Miranda rights.
Okay, so that's the shift. Miranda rights, right to remain silent, right to an attorney. It's not just about helping anymore.
Exactly. It's officially an investigation now. And this is where the transcript of what she first tells Officer Meek, this is where the layers really start peeling back.
Right. Those first statements she makes, they become the foundation for this narrative that just keeps shifting.
Yeah.
Contradicting itself.
Yeah.
It's the first piece in a really complicated puzzle.
Okay, so what does she tell Meek initially?
She says she was driving her Jeep, coming from Quillen, going to meet Robert at a Jack in the Box. Says he texted her when she was like 3 miles out. Then she somehow went off the road.
Off the road.
Yeah. So she calls Robert. He apparently says he doesn't think he can get down to where she is, so they both walk up to where his truck is parked.
Notice how specific that is, though. Quinlan, Jack in the Box, the text, going off the road.
Very specific anchors for the initial story. Details investigators are definitely going to try and check, see if they hold up.
So then she says Robert uses his truck, tries to pull her Jeep out. She's at the back of the Jeep, goes to grab something, and then just hears a shot.
One shot.
One shot. The Jeep starts rolling, and she insists she saw nothing. Just that shadow again.
Still just a shadow.
Yells Robert's name, feels something on her, she doesn't say what, then she just runs, drops her phone. Oh, and she mentions falling in a big mud puddle.
Right, the mud puddle. That becomes important later, too. But this is her core story at first. Sudden attack, unseen shooter, panic, runaway. That detail about the shadow, though, with a fatal shotgun wound, likely close range, it's just very puzzling.
Puzzling is putting it mildly. It immediately makes you wonder. And she doubles down, insists she was out there alone with Robert, confirms his name, that he's a firefighter. She even gives a reason for going off-road, says she took a wrong turn because she was looking at her map, then points to the blood on herself, says, oh, that's because I fell on the mud when I was running.
See, the mud again. It's the explanation for the blood. Maybe for other things they might notice. It's a detail to watch as her story changes.
Definitely. Then, while the EMTs are checking her out, kind of out of the blue, she says, my wedding ring is gone.
Amidst all that chaos.
Yeah.
The ring.
Yeah. Seems minor, maybe, but like you said, it pops up again later and feels significant.
The timing is interesting, too. While getting checked out medically, is it genuine distress? Or is she maybe planting a detail? Hard to say at this point.
Right. So EMTs clear her. They move her to a police car. She says she's sore, swelling because she fell running.
Keeps mentioning the fall.
Yeah, reiterates the whole thing. I heard the shot, saw Robert slumped, ran, tripped in the mud puddle, lost the ring, lost her shoes, lost her phone, and that's why the 911 call cut off.
So the fall in the mud explains everything. Missing items, the dropped call. It's a very convenient explanation, repeated consistently. It feels like a core part of her initial script.
Seems like it. Then she starts talking about her marriage. Robert was 18 years older, says they'd been having problems. He'd even contacted a lawyer about divorce.
Okay.
And she claims she was okay with that. They'd been married almost 7 years. But then she says he told her recently he wasn't going to throw her stuff out, wanted her to come home. She said fine.
So, reconciliation.
Seems like it. She adds, he said he didn't want the divorce, and she didn't either. Says she loves him. It's quite the emotional swing just in describing the relationship right then.
It paints this picture, yeah. Troubled relationship, but maybe, just maybe, turning a corner. But notice the contradictions already. First, she's okay with divorce. Then suddenly, neither of them wants it. Early signs, maybe, of unreliability.
Definitely feels that way. Then they ask, okay, where were you coming from before the Jeep got stuck? She says a friend's house. Michael Garza.
Ah, Michael Garza, first mention.
Yep. And she really downplays it. Known him 4 or 5 months, just letting her stay at his place sometimes because he's rarely there. Claims he's in his 30s, doesn't know much about him.
Very vague, minimizing it. Like he's just some guy. Why might she do that, you think? Especially given what we learn later.
It absolutely raises a flag, doesn't it? It seems like she's trying to keep him out of it initially. So this intro to Michael Garza, like you said, just the start. They take her to the station for more questions.
Right. Interrogation room now.
Read her rights again. She says something like, wow, I've never been in this situation. Do I need a lawyer? They tell her, well, you're not under arrest, but you're not free to just walk out either.
That's standard. But her hesitation about the lawyer? It's understandable in high stress, but it also keeps the focus on her state of mind.
So they leave her alone in the room for a bit. And that's when she finally seems to notice, like really notice the mud and blood on her arms.
Interesting. Takes her a while.
Yeah. Detective comes back in. She starts talking about problems with Robert going back maybe 2.5 years. Claimed she got violent, broke her phones, called everyone on her cake business phone bill.
Okay, so now we're getting allegations of past abuse.
Right. And it turns out Robert had filed for divorce back then. She'd moved out. But moved back in because apparently the divorce papers said she couldn't take their daughter if she left.
Ah, okay. So the daughter becomes a key factor, a potential reason she went back, even if things were bad, as she claims.
Exactly. She says after they got back together, things were okay for a while until Robert filed for divorce again just recently. Mentions their 6-year-old daughter. Claims Robert was fighting her, trying to take the daughter away, saying he knew that would hurt her the most.
Painting him as vindictive now.
But here's a shocker. She says her daughter is her world, right? But when they ask where the daughter is right now, Chacey has no idea.
No idea.
Left her with some friends of, wait for it,
yeah,
Michael Garza.
Wow. Okay, that's a huge contradiction. Professing devotion but having no clue where her child is at that moment. What does that say about her priorities or her story?
It throws serious doubt on things. And it gets wilder. These friends of Michael's, the ones watching the daughter, they actually drove over to Chacey and Robert's house earlier that night, found it empty.
Right.
On their way back, they see all the flashing lights on the road. They stop. And they tell the police, yeah, we're supposed to be watching the kid because Chacey was going on a date.
A date.
Yeah.
Not just visiting a friend. A date. That completely blows up her initial story about Michael Garza and why she was with him. That raises massive questions about her intentions that night.
Totally. Police then call Chacey's mom and stepdad. They come get their granddaughter. Understandably, they're frantic, asking police what's going on. Police can only say, you know, Chacey's being detained, part of an investigation.
Imagine getting that call as a parent. Just awful.
And meanwhile, Michael's friends, they're being cagey about Mikey Gar, claim they don't really know him that well.
Distancing themselves. Trying to protect him. Or themselves. More intrigue.
Back to the interrogation. Chacey admits she met Michael Garza on Facebook. Still insists they were just friends, despite what his friends just told the cops about a date.
Still sticking to that story, even when contradicted.
But then she shifts. Changes her story about earlier that evening. Admits, okay, yeah, we didn't just hang out, we had sex. Twice.
While supposedly planning to meet her husband to reconcile.
Exactly. Says her husband had no idea.
That's a major shift. It completely changes the dynamic, the timeline, her relationship with Michael. Her credibility is just tanking.
Absolutely. Then she tells this story about a recent fight with Robert. He kept asking about some text she got from an unknown number. She sends him screenshots, big fight ensues. He threatened to kick her out if she doesn't reveal who it was.
Okay, so this shows Robert was suspicious, right? And she was being evasive, hints at secrecy, infidelity maybe?
Yeah, the transcript notes this text message thing becomes crucial later. She goes on, claims Robert was violent over the years, hitting, grabbing her hair, but she never pressed charges, didn't want him to lose his firefighter job.
So the abuse claims continue. This could be her trying to establish a motive, maybe, for someone else wanting him hurt. But again, these are her claims. We need corroboration.
Right. And she mentions his ex-wife Amy, but doesn't say much. We find out later, Robert and Amy divorced after 20 years because he cheated on her with Chacey.
Wow. Okay, so that adds a whole other layer to the history there.
Yeah.
He left a long-term marriage for Chacey.
Seems so. Chacey keeps going, says they'd been fighting for days. The night before the shooting, he called her names. She threatened to leave. But then the next morning, the day he died, she says, as she was leaving for work, he told her he still loved her, wanted her to stay. They agreed to talk later that day about staying together.
So back to the reconciliation story. But this directly contradicts what Michael's friend said, right?
Yeah.
That she was supposedly meeting Robert to get divorce papers signed.
Exactly. These conflicting accounts about their immediate plans, it's becoming a pattern.
A huge pattern.
And here comes another apparent lie. They ask who she was texting and calling while at Michael's house. She only mentions Robert and her friend Brad.
Brad. Okay, new name.
Yeah. And she downplays Brad, too. Just friends since they were 17. Absolutely no intimacy. Denies it completely.
Minimizing again. Just like with Michael initially. You sense a theme here.
Totally. But guess who comes in to talk to the police?
Let me guess. Brad.
Brad himself. And his story completely flips hers on its head.
How so?
He says they started talking on Facebook about 5 months back, overlapping with Michael, mind you, and intimate. Try at least 6 days a week, probably 7.
Whoa. Okay, 6 or 7 days a week? That's
Yeah.
not just friends.
Not even close. And get this, unlike what she told Michael, Chacey had told Brad she'd been divorced since 2014.
So she's telling different stories to different men she's involved with while still married to Robert. Brad's testimony just demolishes her narrative, reveals this pattern of infidelity, lies,
Wow.
just a whole web.
It's a critical turning point. The detective goes back to the shooting scene details. Chacey repeats her story. Jeep stuck, heard shot, saw shadow, ran, fell in mud.
The original story.
But the detective's clearly not buying it anymore. He points out how unlikely it is. Someone shoots your husband at point-blank range and just lets you get in your car and drive off, unharmed.
Yeah, the logic doesn't track.
He also brings up the blood spatter on her arm. How does that fit with just running away and falling in mud?
Good point. Blood spatter suggests proximity, close proximity. Yeah. Much closer than just running past. The physical evidence is starting to contradict her words directly.
And the detective remembers something else. Earlier, talking to Officer Meek at the scene, she did say she saw a man.
Ah, not just a shadow then.
Nope, she described him. Dark clothes, not as tall as the detective, which completely contradicts her later claim of only seeing a shadow.
She can't even keep her eyewitness account straight. From seeing a man to seeing just a shadow. Why change that detail? It just makes her look even less credible.
The detective confronts her head-on, says, "Look, your story doesn't match the evidence. I think you might be more involved." He tries appealing to her, think about your daughter. Covering this up won't help her. Tells her flat out, I don't believe this random killer story.
Yeah, it's direct. Shifting tactics now. No more just listening. Now it's challenging, pushing back, suggesting involvement.
Chacey insists, I didn't shoot my husband. The detective says, okay, maybe not, but you were 5 feet away when he was murdered with a shotgun. Your story about seeing nothing, it makes no sense. He basically accuses her of lying.
That proximity issue again. It's the gaping hole in her story. How do you see nothing from 5 feet away from a shotgun blast?
Detective then asks for consent to search her phone, her purse, her place.
How does she react?
She hesitates, then signs. Still claims she has nothing to hide. But the detective pushes back again. Someone was right next to Robert. I find it really hard to believe you saw absolutely nothing.
That hesitation, even though she signed. It's another little red flag, isn't it? If you have nothing to hide, why pause?
Yeah.
Suggests she might be worried about what they'll find.
Definitely. Then the detective switches gears, asks if she ever vented to Michael Garza about Robert.
About the alleged abuse.
Yeah, she admits she did. Says Michael knew Robert hit her because he apparently saw bruises. She'd told Brad similar things too, Robert dragging her around. And Brad confirmed this, said he kept telling her, go to the police, Chacey.
So she was sharing these abuse stories with both men. Was it true? Was it to get sympathy? Maybe lay groundwork like we speculated? We still don't know for sure if the abuse claims are legit.
Right. And Brad reveals something else disturbing. Chacey told him about some incident where Robert claimed she pointed a gun at him, and Chacey allegedly responded, no, they'll carry you out in a body bag.
Whoa, okay, that flips the script a bit. Suggests she might have had a violent side too, or at least made threats. It complicates that victim narrative she's been pushing.
Hugely. Then we learn about a third man, Sean.
A third one. Seriously.
Yep. Met him at a firefighter event, connected on Facebook. He told police they'd been seeing each other about 10 months, overlapping with Michael and Brad.
Wow. So 3 affairs going on simultaneously.
Seems like it. And guess what she told Sean? Same story. Robert's abusive, threatening divorce, threatening to take the daughter.
Consistent narrative to all the men she's involved with?
And, just like with Brad, she made a chilling comment to Sean, too. Said she wished Robert would just die in a fire.
Okay, wishing him dead now. That, combined with the abuse allegations told to multiple lovers, it paints a picture of deep marital problems and, frankly, a potential desire to have Robert gone. Permanently.
The detective picks up on this, presses her. Was the shooting orchestrated by Michael so they could be together?
Does she admit it?
Initially denies it.
Yeah.
Says she told Michael she was just going to stay with Robert. But then she admits Michael did say he was going to come over and beat Robert up. She claims she told him, no, don't get involved.
Okay, that's a subtle but big admission. She knew Michael was talking about violence towards Robert. Even if she claims she told him not to, she was aware of his intentions.
Right. The detective lays out his theory. Michael's involved. Chacey knew more, maybe saw it happen. She says, I would have hoped Michael wouldn't do that, especially since he knew they were trying to reconcile.
But the detective jumps on that, right? The reconciliation versus...
Exactly. He points out the massive contradiction. You had sex with Michael that night. How does that square with wanting to fix things with Robert? He also mentions Michael's quick I love yous, his history of violence, says flat out, I think you saw Michael kill him, you panicked, that's why you weren't hurt.
The detective's theory is solidifying now. Her actions contradict her words. Michael's volatility is known, she's unharmed. It all points away from a random attack.
He confronts her again, hammering the point. 5 feet away, shotgun blast, you saw nothing. It's just not believable. And after this direct challenge, her story changes. Dramatically.
Finally. What does she say now?
She claims Michael did it. Says she did see it happen.
Okay. So she saw it. How does she know it was him?
Says he had a box of gloves at his place, camo shirt, camo gun, a trash bag. Specific items now.
Suddenly remembers all these details. Convenient. Sounds like she might be trying to shift all the blame onto Michael now, providing details investigators can look for.
Seems that way. And she adds something new, really disturbing. Claims Michael told her his family was in the Mexican mafia, that he could make people disappear.
Whoa. Mafia. Disappearances. That really escalates things. Paints Michael as incredibly dangerous.
And she claims she told Michael, that's not what I want. Which, again, contradicts what she said at the scene about never making threats towards Robert herself.
Right. It feels like another layer of deflection. Make Michael seem like this unstoppable force she couldn't control.
She also claims she told Michael she was going to dinner with Robert, and Michael threatened that if he saw Robert kiss her, he'd show up and cut Robert's lips off.
Just brutal threats.
Meanwhile, the detective reveals getting Michael's side is tough. He's vanished. Texas Rangers SWAT raid his house. No Michael. Just find more camo gear, black clothes, and a security camera pointed right at a wall.
Huh. Camera facing the wall. That's odd. Was he expecting them? Trying to hide something specific? Adds more mystery around Michael.
After a bathroom break, Chacey comes back with another version.
Seriously. What now?
Now she claims she did see Michael standing right there at the side of the Jeep. Says when she tried to leave the scene, Michael pushed her down. She dropped her phone. He picked it up, ended the 911 call, threw it down, and then she couldn't find it.
Okay, wait. That completely contradicts the mud puddle story for the phone drop and the call ending. Now Michael physically stopped her and handled the phone.
Exactly. Her story just keeps morphing. Every time she's challenged, a new detail emerges, often contradicting a previous one. It strongly suggests she's deliberately hiding the real sequence of events.
It really does.
And the transcript notes that slip-up she made when authorities first arrived, where she said, I don't have his on my phone, talking about Robert's number. That seems way more significant now. Maybe Michael did take her phone. to control things, delete stuff.
Plausible. Fits this new narrative she's spinning anyway.
Despite all this, she insists, I didn't want Robert dead. I just didn't want to be with him anymore. But then, seconds later, contradicts herself again, saying, no, I did want us to work things out.
It's impossible to know what she actually wanted or felt. Her statements are just all over the place, utterly unreliable.
And then there are her texts to Sean, the third guy.
Yes. What did those say?
Dark stuff. I only have one way out of this, and it's not going to happen anytime soon, and I hate him so much more than I've ever hated anything in my life, and that she'd be better off if Robert was just gone.
Wow. Okay, that sounds like motive. Deep resentment, clear desire for him to be out of the picture. That's pretty damning evidence of her state of mind towards him.
So, after hearing this latest version, the detective has her write it all down. Official statement time. Warns her, lying now is a serious crime. This is your chance. Tell the truth before we talk to Michael.
Pressure's on.
Detective reads her 5-page statement and immediately finds another lie.
What is it this time?
The place where she claimed her Jeep got stuck. He tells her there aren't any trees there big enough to actually trap a vehicle like she described, and reminds her, you initially said you were stuck, not just that you went off the road.
Even in the written statement, she's still manipulating details. This stuck Jeep story was flawed from the start. It's almost compulsive lying at this point.
Hearing this contradiction, she changes the story again.
Oh my God. Okay, what's the absolute latest version?
Now she claims, when Robert threatened to kick her out way back, she asked Michael, what can we do? And he supposedly said he'd have someone kill Robert or do it himself.
So now Michael initiate the murder plot talk.
According to this version, yes. She claims Michael wanted her to meet him in Dallas, stage it like a robbery, plan to burn Robert's truck, clothes. When that plan didn't happen, she finally admits. She drove down that specific rural road, went into the ditch on purpose, and called Robert to that exact spot. The spot Michael told her to stop at.
Okay, that is huge. Admission of premeditation. Luring him there. Setting the stage. She's finally admitting direct involvement in the setup, even if she's still trying to pin the actual trigger pull on Michael.
Right, and she recounts the shooting again. Robert pulls the Jeep out. Gunshot. He doesn't say a word. She claims she was screaming at Michael, stop, stop, because she just wanted Robert to know how worthless he supposedly made her feel, how he bullied her.
That explanation.
Yeah.
I wanted him to know how he bullied me. It sounds incredibly self-serving, doesn't it?
No.
Especially given everything else. It doesn't ring true after all the lies.
Not at all. And the deceit wasn't just with the police. Brad, the second guy, he revealed he was texting Chacey around 10 p.m. that night, just before the 911 call came in at 10:48.
What were they texting about?
She told Brad she was at the hospital, visiting her sick grandfather, who had supposedly just passed away.
What? A fake dead grandfather?
Apparently. She even sent messages suggesting she was heading to Brad's house later that night. Brad now thinks, and it seems pretty likely, she was trying to build a false alibi with that hospital story.
Wow. Actively constructing an alibi right before the murder. That shows incredible calculation and deception.
Brad also told police he suspected she was exaggerating the abuse claims against Robert. Maybe to get his sympathy, maybe even help.
It fits with what others said later.
Yeah. The day after Chacey's big interview marathon, investigators talked to Michael's mom and brother, urged them, get him to turn himself in. He'll be safe if he cooperates. But Michael doesn't come in right away.
He's still laying low. His continued absence just adds to the suspicion around him.
When Chacey's left alone again after writing her statement, she's apparently really distraught. Eventually, her mom and stepdad come in to see her.
Oh, that must have been intense.
You bet. Her mom confronts her directly, says, I talked to Robert yesterday. I know he wasn't mistreating you like you claim. Chacey's own mother doesn't believe the abuse story.
That's powerful. If your own mother doesn't believe your claims against your husband, it speaks volumes. Likely confirms the abuse narrative was fabricated.
And others back this up. The neighbor, Amy, Robert's ex-wife of 20 years, Robert's own daughter, Nicole, all said basically never saw abuse. Robert wasn't like that. Nicole even recounted times she saw Chacey faking abuse.
Just devastating testimony against Chacey's claims. Multiple people who knew Robert well, all saying the same thing. Paints a very different picture of him and of her credibility.
Back in the room, Chacey tries pleading with her mom. I didn't want him killed, just scared. Her mom fires back. You wanted Michael Garza to scare him. Stop lying, Chacey. As her mom leaves, Chacey cries out, I told Michael not to do it.
I'd cry. I told him not to do it, even if she's still denying intent. It suggests she knew what Michael was capable of, what he might do, and she didn't stop it effectively, if at all.
After composing herself, the mom comes back, urges her again, tell the truth. And Chacey adds one last little detail about her wedding ring.
The ring again. What now?
Now she claims Michael has it, along with her earrings.
Wait, but at the scene, she said she lost it in the mud puddle when she fell.
Exactly. Another direct contradiction right at the very end. Still changing the story, maybe trying to further implicate Michael.
Unbelievable. Just layer upon layer of lies.
The transcript wraps up with a few more key facts. Less than 2 weeks before Robert died, Brad ran into Robert at Chacey's house, even though she told Brad she lived alone. Suggests Robert knew or was suspicious about Brad, too.
So Robert likely wasn't totally clueless about her affairs.
Seems likely. Robert's daughter also confirmed, yes, Dad was planning to leave Chacey, and he planned to take their daughter with him.
Which gives Chacey a powerful motive to prevent that from happening.
In that interrogation room, Chacey's mom just expresses total heartbreak, disbelief. Ultimately, Chacey Pointer gets arrested, conspiracy to commit murder. Michael Garza turns himself in 2 days later, refuses to talk to investigators.
Smart move, probably, but his friends talked.
Yeah, his friends gave his version. Chacey set him up. He fled because he was scared after she allegedly said they were going to kill Robert. Then investigators found a shotgun and a balaclava in a field nearby.
The physical evidence.
In the end, Michael Garza, convicted, first-degree murder, 99 years. Chacey Pointer, also convicted, first-degree murder, life sentence.
A grim end to it all. The convictions, the discovery of the evidence, it brings a kind of conclusion, but highlights just how destructive that web of lies and deceit really was.
So you've just heard how a single frantic 911 call can completely unravel. It spirals into this incredibly complex mess of infidelity, manipulation, and, yeah, ultimately a really brutal murder. The sheer number of lies Chacey told, it just hammers home how tough it is for investigators to find the truth when someone is actively trying to hide it.
Absolutely. In this case, it really makes you think about the destructive potential of deception in relationships, the tragic lengths people might go to when they're caught up in these kinds of tangled emotional situations and conflicts.
So consider this. How does that desire to just escape a situation, when it gets mixed up with multiple other secret relationships, hidden plans, how does it lead to something so utterly devastating? What does this deep dive really tell us about the dark side of human relationships, the extremes people might resort to?
It's a deeply disturbing glimpse, isn't it? Born from that one scream on the phone. It leaves you with a lot of heavy questions about motivation, deception, and just how far things can go.